Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox recording here to share with you 6 dumb things that I used to do as a young metal engineer. More specifically, when I was in my early 20s while I was going to school for audio production. Now, we all start somewhere, and hindsight is always 20/20, but I figured I'd put out this video so hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and save yourself some time, heartache, stress, and energy. Okay, and dumb thing I used to do, number 1. Blame my gear when I wasn't happy with my results. And I have 3 real-world examples that I'm going to share with you. Example number 1, back when I used to record drums, especially earlier in my career, I was never happy with my cymbal sound. My hi-hat would always kill my mix. I always thought it was either my microphones, preamps, the room I was recording in. To me, it was easier to blame my gear instead of realizing I just wasn't miking my cymbals correctly. That whole time I spent all this time searching for new microphones and preamps, all I had to do was pay more attention to the mic placement on my cymbals. Example number 2, I used to stress out about my scream vocal sounds within a mix. Often they would be harsh, there'd always be this annoying top end. And again, much like with my cymbals, I always blamed it on my microphone and my mic preamp. And guess what turned out to be the solution? Using saturation on my vocals in the mix with plugins and just understanding how to use EQ more efficiently and not overcomplicating the process. And in this case, getting to know my high shell filter very well. And the third example of me blaming my gear when it was really just my approach was when it came to me trying guitar sims. I was constantly searching for the perfect guitar sim or amp sim plugin when I should have been paying attention to my impulse response, because at the end of the day, your impulse response is what's ultimately going to give you the tone that you're after. I spent years and years, tons of time trying different amp sims, and all I had to do was just pick a good impulse response and stick with it. And on that topic, you could download my custom impulse response of my favorite Mesa Boogie cab out of my studio for absolutely free. There's a link below in this video's description. Okay, this leads me to dumb thing I used to do number 2. Not setting deadlines in the studio, both for myself and my clients. Here's the thing that I learned through years and years of doing this. When you let projects go on and on and on and never end, you really do lose sight of the big picture. So for example, if I was recording my own band, we would spend years working on an album. Or sometimes I would have those clients in, if you're an engineer, you know who these clients are, that just endlessly tweak things, and the projects will, no joke, go on forever. I had a band in that literally spent over 5 years recording an album with me. I am not exaggerating. Nowadays, I set hard deadlines both for myself and my clients, and I stick with them. So always set deadlines. Dumb thing I used to do, number 3. Skipping over pre-production with my clients. Now, when you're working with bands that aren't that experienced, a lot of times they're not really paying attention to the finer details within their music. Tempo maps, conflicted parts between the guitar players or the guitar player and the bass player, not having vocal melodies finalized, all these different things that you kind of ignore in band practice are really held under a microscope when you record your music for real. So if you're working with a band that doesn't do their own pre-production and you just try to record them like their record without doing it, you will be in a nightmarish situation most of the time, which I often was. The little bit of time that it takes to demo the music, whether you're working with a client or your own music, up front will save you days, possibly weeks, possibly months when it comes time to recording your project for real. Always do pre-production. Dumb thing I used to do, number 4, saying yes to every artist that would hit me up on MySpace, actually, because when I started, that's when MySpace was a thing. This included bands that didn't have complete songs written. This included hip hop artists that I had absolutely no interest in working with. This included pop artists that, again, I had no interest in working with. And what ended up happening was I would end up spending time on projects that I wasn't passionate about. And I found that the best way to get good quickly is to consistently work on projects that you're passionate about. Now, realistically, you're not going to be completely in love with every single project that you take on, but you should at least be passionate enough to do the best job that you can. And when it comes to rappers coming into the studio, high as a kite, messing with my gear, coming in unprepared, it's just not something that I want to do for the rest of my life on a regular basis. Dumb thing I used to do as a young metal engineer, Number 5, not having a life outside of my studio. Now, back in my early 20s, I barely got any sleep. I was on a steady diet of 7-Eleven and Dunkin' Donuts. I just wasn't taking care of myself. And like I said earlier, I was recording a bunch of projects that I just wasn't passionate about. Now, even though I was much younger then, I was completely run down, completely burnt out, and it took me years to realize that more is not always more. It's all about balance. If you want to be productive in the studio, you need time to rest and live an actual life. Okay, and finally, dumb thing I used to do, number 6, mixing the same song over and over and over and over and over again, trying to make it perfect. And I've got news for you. There is no such thing as a perfect mix. And not only that, the best way to get good at mixing is to mix a high volume of different music. And this ties into what I mentioned earlier, where you have to set deadlines for yourself and work with multiple artists or multiple songs. A lot of people, myself included at the time, will just tweak things endlessly, and it's very easy to lose sight of the big picture. Now, on the topic of this, and because this is such a common thing with home studio owners, I've opened the door this week to my PreProduction Mix Crypt community. Now, instead of getting stuck mixing the same music over and over and over again by the same artist, in the community, we're gonna be mixing a brand new song every single month. There'll be a new in-depth masterclass with me with a thorough breakdown of my mix of the song. On top of that, multi-tracks will be included so you can mix the song along with me. Also, there is a private community made up only of like-minded engineers that are part of the PreProduction Mix Crypt, and we'll be sharing each other's mixes and critiquing each other's work. And finally, at the end of every single month, there will be a live group coaching call where I'll be there live with my DAW open, and you can ask me any question that you have when it comes to the song that we're working on that month or any mix that you're working on in general. Now, I'm closing doors to the membership tomorrow night at midnight. So if it's something that you're interested in, click the link below and learn more about the PreProduction Mix Crypt. Okay, so there you have it. Those were 6 dumb things that I used to do when I started my audio production journey. And like I said earlier, we all have to start somewhere, and hindsight is always 20/20, but I really wanted to share these mistakes because they are very common, and I'm constantly hearing of other people falling victim to the same patterns, and I don't want that for you. I want you to learn from my mistakes so you can skip over them and get right to producing the results that you really want. So let me know, I'm curious to know, are you guilty of any of the things that I mentioned in this video? Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. And if you'd like to pick up some PreProduction swag, I've got t-shirts, mugs, and other cool stuff on the way. There's a link to the PreProduction merch store below in this video's description. But until next time, happy mixing.